So what should every franchisor understand about working with franchisees? Well, I'd say first, just be patient. I think a lot of franchisors, especially if you're the founder, you tend to be very excited about your concept. You have a lot of faith in it, a lot of hard-learned lessons, and you're excited to get into franchising, to see your dream take flight. And your franchisees are coming from a very different journey. These are typically people who may or may not have any small business or any kind of business background. They may be corporate, they may be young and not very established in the business world. So their journey to get where you are is very different than the one that you took. And I think a lot of times franchisors, especially founders, can get frustrated with the lack of buy-in, with the lack of shared vision. Franchisees don't seem to get it very quick, or the ones that do want to take it in a totally different direction than the franchisor initially started out. So that said, you have to be patient. You can't just correct. You can't get too aggressive in how you remedy that situation. You have to look at it, understand where they're coming from, empathize, and gently nudge them in the direction that you want them to go, without taking away their dreams and their vision, because clearly they're on a different path and they came to you for different goals. And while you have alignment in the model and what you're trying to do as a franchise system, their objectives may be very, very different than yours. And it's important to remember that. So, first and foremost, just be patient. Understand that with good communication and good support, you'll get through it. You'll get on the right side of the relationship and get them moving forward and get them going with you on your journey, without them having to sacrifice their journey. So yeah, I'd say be patient. I would say I came into franchising from an entrepreneurial background. I worked for a small sole proprietor for 12 years, grew in that organization, really never worked. I didn't grow up in franchising. I grew up in small business. And so transitioning into franchising was, I'd say the biggest challenge was really understanding the different mindset and background between an entrepreneur who starts a business from scratch and essentially manifests an idea into reality, and a franchisee who will share certain characteristics, but is certainly not looking to develop a business model or invent a new way of conducting business. So there's some entrepreneurial aspects of working with franchisees, but there is a lot of other challenges. And franchisees tend to be a little bit more risk averse than your conventional entrepreneur. I mean, if you can think about it, a genuine entrepreneur will gamble all of their assets, all of their resources on a singular vision, on a dream, and a franchisee is looking for a proven concept. So the biggest challenge for me was really learning how to translate what I used to communicate and working in an entrepreneurial organization and working with entrepreneurs into something useful to a franchisee who, again, shares a similar reality, but a very different mindset about how they got to where they are and where they intend to go. And I think really what I learned from that, extended beyond that, was it's not always important what you're trying to do and what you're trying to say. It's important to understand what the other person is trying to do, what they're trying to say, and honestly, how they're hearing what you're saying. So where I might get frustrated with a risk-averse franchisee who isn't taking enough chances in their business to see it successful, and I let that frustration telegraph, I don't get the reaction that I'm hoping for. The franchisee shuts me down. They don't want to listen to me. They end up turning to other franchisees or peers outside of franchising. And really, that's not what I want. I want them to understand why we're having the exchange we're having and why they're being encouraged to take bigger chances. So it really was, I learned that it was more important to understand their perspective and what they were trying to do than it was to convince them that I was correct or why my way of doing things was better than theirs. What do I think every business owner should know before franchising their brand? Well, take your 2-year-old baby, give it to a complete stranger, and ask them to bring it back to you in about a year and be happy with the results. It is probably one of the hardest things that I think franchisors, particularly founders, struggle with is this is not a corporate structure. You're not in charge of the brand in the same way that a CEO of a conventional corporation might be. It's a highly collaborative environment. You're working with your franchisees. They are not working for you. You're really not working for them. They have a business that they're trying to run, executing your model. You are working on that model to ensure that it's robust and competitive in the market. You're working on brand recognition and marketing, and they're doing the same things. And when you are a business owner, especially a founder, you tend to have this mindset that it's my way or the highway. Whether you know it or not, you tend to get your way in meetings very often. Your people around you tend to push. You may feel like they challenge you, but they all want to keep their jobs. They all want to make you happy. A franchisee comes from this. Again, this is not, in their mind, they don't work for you. This is a business they bought from you. If anything, they have a customer mindset that they gave you money, they continue to give you money, and you continue to support the model that you've built. So from a founder perspective, from a business owner's perspective, if you've not franchised before, that can be really tough, especially when you become outnumbered. I've worked in franchise systems where there was a couple of top performers, and when you look at their EBITDA, it was actually better than the franchisor. And that can be a tough pill when you're looking at somebody that took your model and has been successful with it and has driven it to the highest levels, and suddenly they're actually operating as profitable a business as you are as the franchisor. And that can be really challenging. So you certainly give up a lot of I wouldn't say control, because you are still the franchisor. So you have a lot of say in what the brand does and how it goes about doing what it does, but it isn't the same as you probably experienced prior to franchising. So it is a highly collaborative. You're going to want to have a franchise advisory council, or you'll get a franchise association. You certainly don't want that. So it's a much more collaborative engagement. It's a give and take. You have to compromise a lot. You find yourself picking your battles. You don't need to win in every case. You need to just win on the important stuff. So yeah, I'd say probably the biggest thing I would want to consider as a business owner is, am I ready to give up that control? Am I ready to surrender at least a portion of the future of my brand to people I haven't met yet? Because you're going to run out of family members to sell a franchise to. You're going to run out of friends to sell a franchise to. And eventually you're going to be selling to people you don't know. And these people are going to have opinions on what you do and how you do it. And you're going to have to hear those opinions, because that's how you further the brand. So yeah, I think that's probably where I think a lot of franchisors get in trouble, is they think of all the great things of franchising, that they're going to get faster growth. There's going to be all this capital coming into the organization as people start buying the model. So there's a lot of really great parts about franchising, but at the end of the day, you do give up a fair bit of control over the direction your brand is going in and how it does what it does. I think what's important for a franchisee to know before they join a brand, the first thing is, how are you going to go through that transformative process? How am I going to become a franchisee? I'm assuming that this individual, this is not a franchisee. They don't have a franchisee's background. So this is probably their first experience with franchising. So there's a transformation that has to happen. Even if they're an entrepreneur and they've been a successful sole proprietor, they've not been a franchisee. They've not had to be in the franchising environment. So how am I going to become a franchisee? If I've never owned a business, how am I going to become a business owner? What does that transformative process look like? So you want to look at the training program. How deep is it? What are the topics that they're talking about? How is the content delivered to me? Is it spoon-fed? Do I read in a book? Is it a bunch of videos? How long is it? Am I expected to learn all of this in a period of a few days? And then subsequently, what happens once I finish training? What does the ongoing support look like? The learning process is going to far exceed anything that you can get done in a week. So you're going to continue to learn. As you start your franchise, you're going to have a lot of challenges come your way. Given your background, you may know how to solve some of them. You may not know how to solve others. Who are you going to go to when you have to solve that problem? Is there a network? Are there other franchisees? How do they work together? Has the franchisor laid out a way for them to work together? Is there a coach? Is there a business coach? Is there ongoing training and support? What do the vendor relationships look like? So it's really just thinking as a franchisee, it's the model tends to get the most focus. Everybody wants the new yoga, fusion, juicer, smoothie, gym concept you put next to a Starbucks, and it's, super attractive. All your neighbors are going to, oh, wow, you got that new business up at the mall, but ultimately it's not the model alone. You have to be able to execute the model. You have to learn how to operate that business. You have to overcome all of those challenges. And so not enough attention, I think, is paid by franchise candidates as to what is on the other side of me signing this agreement. How are they going to get me started? How are they going to continue to support me? And honestly, depending on how far removed you are from the kind of business you're running. So if you're coming from a manufacturing background and you're looking at a service business, that's a very, very different business model. That is a very, very different experience. So your learning curve is going to be much harder than somebody who's coming at it, maybe who worked for a service company or has been in a service industry before. So just understand that when you're vetting a franchisor, you're as much vetting the business model itself as you're vetting the way that they're going to transform you into a successful franchisee. And I say transform you because the franchisor cannot make you a successful franchisee. If we could, we'd be handing these things out in high school. The government would be writing huge checks, and every franchisor would be living on an island in the tropics. It takes a lot of hard work. The franchisor has to put in the effort. The franchisee has to put in the effort. So knowing how that's going to happen and how you're going to get that support to make it through that transformative process is probably one of the more critical aspects, probably even more so than the actual business model that you're acquiring. If I could go back in time, what advice would I give myself before I began my career in franchising? I don't know. That's a tough one. I really love what I do, but boy, can it be challenging sometimes. I don't know. Be open-minded. I think I'd be more open-minded. I think initially I was probably borderline arrogant. I'd had a fair bit of career success in my career. I had a fair bit of success in these types of businesses, and I thought that would instantly translate into success in franchising, and it can be very humbling. It can be humbling in seeing ideas that you think work, not work. It can be humbling in seeing franchisees not respond to the things that you're trying to help them deploy, the systems, the processes, the training. So it would just be open-minded, be humble. People respond a little bit better to that anyway. They know you're smart. They know you know what you're doing. That's why they're buying a franchise from you. So you don't need to convince them of that once they become a franchisee. So it kind of goes back to my earlier answer about being patient. I think I was rather impatient when I first started in franchising. I think I probably burned a few franchisee relationships because I maybe wasn't empathetic enough, and I really didn't understand what their challenges were, and I was trying to solve their problems from my perspective instead of being in their shoes. So I don't know if open-minded is the correct word, but I think it's the point across. It's really just don't think that you've got all the answers and you know everything. In franchising, you're lucky as a franchisor. We have 260 franchisees at Premium Service Brands. That's 250 successful adults that have had success in their careers, that have succeeded in a wide variety of different professions. And every single one of those experiences is valuable to the franchisor. So if you're smart, you engage those resources. You go in, if you have somebody in your organization who used to be a software developer and you're not calling him for his opinion on software issues, you're missing a huge opportunity. If you have somebody who is in operations management and you're not calling her to say, hey, we have this operational challenge, well, how would you tackle it? You're just missing out. So open-minded, collaborative, just really engage your franchisees is probably what I would go tell myself back in the day when I first started out.